Welcome to It's a New Day. My name is James Young. And today my guest is?
Rick Osborne.
Okay, but before we start talking about your professional life, let's talk about your real life,
Okay.
your personal life.
Okay.
Were you born here in Rochester?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Rochester.
Okay, what part of Jefferson
Okay.
or the other side?
I was born and raised in Rochester. I grew up on the west side. As early as I can remember, Gladstone Street, which is actually like a house that my family, we still have a house there. Gladstone Street right there between Tremont and Clifton.
Okay, and which schools did you go to?
I went to number 4 school elementary from, kindergarten through 6th grade, and then I went to Charlotte High School. Everybody remembers middle school. It's a high school
Yeah,
to
you
me.
get the shit lot from
Yeah, yeah. I went to Charlotte from 7th through 12th, and
Okay.
that's it. Those are the only 2 schools I know.
One of the pressing questions that I have to ask, now we're going into your professional side of you,
Okay.
is how did you decide that you wanted to be in TV, cameras, making film? And the reason why I'm asking this is because for the most part, anyway, to my knowledge, maybe I'm wrong, but we don't have a whole lot of filmmakers that look like us, that especially that comes from this area. So how does a black man put in his mind that, oh, I can do this?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because um, I remember growing up. You look at TV and things, and you figure I'm black. Like I could never be on TV. You look at glitz and glamour. Um, but when I went to college, my best friend at the time, and he actually he was a former director here at RCTV, Cecil Felton. He and I both, we were friends ever since we were like 4 years old, and we went to college together. We both went to Adelphi University, which is in Long Island. And I was just surprised to be in college. I was just happy to be there. And I had no idea what I was going to study. I was just like, hey, I'm in college. He was a good screenwriter and producer. And he said, well, I'm going to write these scripts and I'm going to produce them, and you become my cameraman. So my freshman year of school, I said, okay, that sounds good to me, you know. so that's basically what started me into it. I was just like, okay, I'll be the cameraman.
From there, how did your interest take, and how did you develop into where you are now?
Okay. From there, my school, which was really, I don't know if a lot of universities do this now, but I think the higher ones will do it, probably like Syracuse. They taught me everything in terms of production. One semester you take studio production, next semester you take film production. So not only were we being trained on video cameras, we were trained on film cameras. We actually shot films using 35 millimeter film. Editing on what at the time was a flatbed, where we actually had to cut the film, splice it together to get the scenes that we wanted.
Okay.
So aside from TV production and film production, you had to take radio production. You had to come up with like 8 minutes of like radio, of like a radio show. So it was a little bit of everything. I took, and then like my minor was photography. So I took a lot of portrait and studio photography. I can go in the dark room and navigate around. I haven't done it in a while, but you know, it's just like riding a bicycle. You don't forget f-stops never change, things like that. But I would go in the dark room and make these, you know, and it's just, anybody that's ever done any type of photography, to take a picture and you put it in the solution and you watch it just before your eyes coming to this portrait that you know what I mean, that you envisioned when you took the picture, it's beautiful, you know. So that was like one of the things that I studied. You know, I studied like a little bit of everything. I came out of college. Actually, when I graduated from Adelphi, I stayed in New York City for a year. I didn't come back to Rochester right away. I figured, you know, I'm in Long Island, I'm gonna make it in New York. That's the place to be. So, you know, I lived in Queens and I moved around in New York. A couple of odd jobs. I actually had a job. My counselor at Adelphi, his wife was part of affirmative action at NBC Studios.
Okay.
So I actually worked at NBC Studios in the mailroom. Okay, that was my first job, in New York. So I would go to. Go
Before
ahead.
you go there, I think that this is a very good story because now it's talking about how you progressed, how you came into an industry where there really weren't a whole lot of us in front or behind the camera.
None.
You had the ability, the guts, if you will, to be able to see this and then start out in the mailroom.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't want to be in the mailroom. Okay. But at the time, the film that had just came out was, I think, Bright Lights, Big City with Michael J. Fox.
Okay.
And so I'm figuring I'm working in the mailroom. I'm delivering the mail. I would go home and run off 100 resumes. So everybody I delivered mail to, I dropped my resume in their mailbox.
Okay.
It's like, what the hell, I'm delivering the mail anyhow, right? And I never got a job, but it was just certain things that happened when I worked at NBC. Willard Scott, Gene Shalit, those guys would come down the hall. Hey, get out the way, mail guy. Push you out the way, take the mail cart, joke around with you. I got on the elevator, Cosby Kids. Cosby Show was real popular at the time. You could get on the elevator, look over, it's Cosby Kids. You have conversation with them. I think one of the only person I could really remember ever met in my life, Jimmy Carter.
Okay.
He happened to be at NBC one day, just doing a radio spot. I met him, talked to him, and I was like, Jimmy Carter, I was Jimmy Carter back then was like a rock star.
Yeah.
And I remember passing NBC Studios and I saw this weird looking guy. He looked like a clown to me. He had like all these different colors and things. So I ended up talking to him, and I didn't know at the time it was Tiny Tim.
Okay.
He was just hanging out, sitting on the floor with his ukulele, But that's my NBC story.
And from NBC, where did you go from there?
For NBC, I actually quit because living in New York, rent was expensive, $1,500, $2,500. I got a job at Macy's. So I worked at Macy's on 34th Street. So when you see the Macy's Day Parade, Miracle on 34th Street, I've been all in Macy's, all up in there. And it's a very historical place. So I worked there for about 4 months. And then from there, I became a business investigator. And I did that for another 3 or 4 months. And then after a while, I just got, New York is great. It's exciting. It's electric. But I wasn't working in the field that I wanted to be in.
Okay.
And I always felt Rochester, a lot of people dying to get out of Rochester. And of course, if I had made it in New York, I probably wouldn't have never came back. But it didn't bother me to come back to Rochester and say, let me see what I can do with this degree.
And when you came back, is that when you got into the industry again?
No, I did not.
Okay, well,
when
tell us about
I did
that.
not. I came back to Rochester and I worked at various jobs. I worked at Tops Market in Jefferson Road, stocking shelves at night. I worked at a temp service. And then I got fortunate because one temp service, when I worked for them, I said, listen, every Monday, I'm not coming in to whatever assignment you give me. I said, I'm going to go and look for a job. I have a degree. I'm not trying to do temp service. And they work with me. Every Monday they knew that somebody to send somebody else to the work site. And I would go and I would look for a different job on Mondays.
Okay. I think that, too, what you're also giving the viewing audience, especially young people, to understand the tenacity that it takes to be able to fulfill a dream. And
Right.
at one time, it may appear that the dream is deferred, that it seems like it's not going to happen, but you just got to keep on pursuing. And now let's continue to pursue from there. When did you actually finally come back into the industry? How long was it before you?
It was probably close to almost a year
Okay.
of working around in Rochester doing different things. I found out about, they had this organization, which is still here now. I think it's under a different name, but it was Rochester Association of Black Communicators. They would have monthly meetings, and someone told me about it, and I went to one of the meetings. And there you have anybody that was black that was working in the industry. And actually it is now. There's a Rochester Association of Black Journalists, which is pretty much the same thing. Anybody that's black in the industry in Rochester that's working in film, communications, video, whatever, they would meet. And I went to one of the meetings, and what they passed around was job openings. And one of the job openings was a job at Fox, at Fox, which was Channel 31. And I applied for it and got the job.
And what did you do there?
When I worked at Fox, my first job at Fox was Master Control. And Master Control is pretty much, it's entry level, but what people don't realize is if you work Master Control, you understand how the entire station lays out.
Okay.
It's pretty much the brain of the operation. It doesn't matter who's shooting a commercial, it's got to go on Master Control, and your job at Master Control is to get it on the air. So I got into Master Control, and I worked it, and of course, you know, when you first start out, you work the strain, you got to work the overnight hours, you got to work weekends. I didn't care. You know, if somebody called in sick, they called me, I came right on in. It didn't bother me. At the time, I had no kids, you know, I'm not married or anything, so anytime they called me, I came into work.
Okay.
So I did Master Control for about 3 years. At the same time, I found out about public access TV, which was housed inside Mount Hope. And I would go to Fox and work in Master Control, but then I found out, I was like, man, you tell me you got this place where you can get all this equipment and produce whatever you want. And that's how I found out about public access. So while I was working at Fox, I was always producing stuff on public access.
And to tell us about some of the things that you produce.
We just worked on like various, you know, we did just short films.
Okay.
You know, Cecil and I, we did a couple of short films. One of them did really well, Girlfriend. We did one about, it's similar to like, I went to high school with Chris Tuck. It's a similar story. We called it Pipe Dreams, which dealt with like the drug, because right back then, crack and everything was like real heavy in the community. It's still there, but back then it was new. And we did a couple of short films, and we used, you know, a lot of public access equipment and just worked on different things.
What would you tell young people, especially young black people, kind of confused, not knowing what direction to come in? How do you see the media as a vehicle for enhancing the quality of someone's life or using this as a career goal?
It's complicated because I work in the field, and I would say yes, you can use it as a career. I mean, I love if this is something that you want to do and you get into it and you like it, then yes, I would say definitely pursue it as a career goal. But don't think you're gonna, and that's with any job. A lot of people, they get infatuated. They think they can walk in the door and they're gonna make $75,000 a year. It doesn't happen like that. You know, it takes some time just to get to a certain point, and you know, it's just like anything else. You have to there's some lucky breaks here and there, and at the same time, you have to be prepared. Now, when I worked at one example, when I worked at Fox in Master Control, I would hang around with the film editor, and he was always editing movies at night because I worked overnights, and you know, and I could put on the stuff that was going to run like 30 minutes and go walk in the room, and I would talk to him. I always knew how to edit, and back then it was just simple editing, insert editing, and the other one I forgot what it was, but it was just different type of editing, and he quit. He said, "I'm moving to Phoenix." Grabbed his family up, quit like in 3 weeks. So they said, we need another film editor. So I walked in the office and said, I can edit. Really, you can edit? Yeah, I can edit. So they gave me a film. Here, edit this film. Now, fortunately, the editor, who used to be the film editor, he was very, I don't want to call him lazy, but he didn't work as fast as I did. It took him 8 days to edit a movie. The first movie they gave me was Gone with the Wind. You know how long Gone with the Wind is? Gone with the Wind. And mind you, I've never seen Gone with the Wind. Everybody, you know, it's an epic movie. So I had to edit Gone with the Wind. It took me 3 days. 3 days. And that wasn't even like really working hard on it. It took me 3 days. But part of me didn't know what I was doing, but I said, look, they ain't gonna know I don't know that. So I kept working on it. I gave it to him, and he was like, oh, you're our new film editor.
Okay.
So for another 2-3 years, I became the film editor. So we used to watch movies at night on Fox, and they have like little cursing in it and things like that. I was the person that decided to leave it in or take it out.
Okay.
You know, so I would edit the movies into segments where they could put commercial breaks.
From there?
From there, I got promoted again.
Okay.
Because I became the film editor. Then the promotions department, they ran into like a little shortage with people. And because I was editing so well, promotions is a lot of editing. And they offered me a job in promotions. So I moved into promotions. And I did that for another 3 years or so. So I was at Fox for roughly about 6 to 8 years.
Okay. And was there a constant moving from one department to another?
Not constant,
Okay.
but it's like I said, from about 2 years I was master control, then like another 2 years, 2-3 years I was film editor, and then from film editor, another 2-3 years I worked in the promotions, whereas, you know, I would set up a booth at the Lilac Festival, drive the car in the Lilac in the you know, Memorial Day parade and things like that. Anything that Fox is out publicizing, I was, you know, part of that promotions. And then when we had on-air promotions tied into, at the time, I remember we had a promotion with Ricky Lake and things like that. I would edit those spots. They would say, oh, we need a 30-second promotion to tie in Ricky Lake. And I would come up with the idea, and they said, okay, fine, edit it, make it happen. And that's what I did.
From Fox, where did you go from there?
From Fox, I came here to RCTV.
And how long have you been here?
I've been here 16 years.
You've been here 16
I've been
years.
here 16 years.
Okay, in those 16 years, you've had to see a lot of people come and go.
Mm-hmm.
You've had to see a lot of change. But would you share some of that, what you saw over these past 16 years?
When I first came in, public access was just basically the front lobby and the studio and the back rooms that you have here. There was no upstairs part of the station, none of that. We used to edit on what's considered a video toaster. You have 4 or 5 people in one room, like literally they were right next to each other, editing, and that was it. That was it, you know.
And what kind of programming were you producing back then?
Was I producing?
Or coming out of the station?
More, you know, and that's the funny thing. The programming that comes out of the station, it really hasn't changed. It really, in those 16 years.
That doesn't really sound good.
It really hasn't changed. Even back then, like 65% of the programming was religious.
Okay.
You know, now it's scaled back a little bit, only because we have limited the amount of airtime that we use for religious programming. Back then, we didn't broadcast 24 hours a day. 10, 11 o'clock at night, the station went off the air. 11 o'clock at night till 9, 10 in the morning, you would just see a community bulletin board, and that was it. Whereas now, it's more automated. We run off a server. We broadcast 24 hours a day. And the reason why I say the programming probably hasn't changed, because you still have different producers that have different goals in mind. You still have a lot of church programs. They don't really care what their show looks like. They just want to see their church service pastor in the pulpit. You know, that's still to this day. But then you have other producers like you who want to try to touch upon different issues and and educate people on different things that's going on. You still have the type of, and I'm one of those. I produced a music video show ever since before I even started here. You still have people that produce those type of shows. So it's always going to be, to me, that's why I say the programming, it really hasn't changed that much.
What is the benefit of public TV? Is there a benefit that the community can actually receive for having this signal coming to them?
I think so. I guess the only benefit, one main benefit I see is that people can identify with people they see on TV. I'm pretty sure you have people come up to you and say, yo, I saw your show.
Yeah.
I like what you said. And that's what happened with me when I started my show. It didn't dawn on me on what an impact I had on different people until I would go to I could be somewhere getting gas, and somebody walk up to me, "Yo, man, I like what you said about this and this and this." And all this time, I was like, "I'm just talking about a bunch of crap on TV." It's just like nobody's really watching. But what people don't understand is that you can touch people, and it's a benefit. People see you, and they feel like they're like, yo, you're real. Like you're somebody I could identify with. Like they're not gonna see Will Smith.
Yes.
They're not gonna see Tom Cruise, but they can see you.
Exactly.
They could just, come in here one day and be like, yo, this guy's on TV. So that's one of the benefits I see.
What is the relationship between the internet and television? Is there a cohesiveness or can there be a synergy between the two? Can we utilize both mediums to deliver a particular message? And do the two meet together? Is one like oil or one like water? Can we mesh the two entities together from your professional point of view?
It's not a question of whether I think we can mesh them or not. I think it's gonna happen.
Okay.
And the way the industry is going, they're pushing it that way. You already have Apple has like Apple TVs and things like that. They're already have different programs where you can download stuff straight to your TV. So it's already happening, and I think as more people become more and more used to it, it's just gonna expand out. So it's not whether I think it could happen, or whether I want it to happen. It's gonna happen,
Okay.
and we're already, the foundation is already being laid for that. So it's definitely gonna be there.
You are the program manager for the station.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a pet peeve, not necessarily with you,
Go for it.
but I have a pet peeve with the station and the programming that comes. I would think that the programming that would come out of a public station would be, for instance, we would produce our own news instead of us having to watch the 6 o'clock news. I'm wondering why we don't produce our own news, give it from our perspective. For instance, I would think that we would do a show that I'm trying to develop now called Good Morning Rochester. Why don't we have shows like this coming on 5 days a week? Why don't we have programming that touches at the heart of matters like this? Another show that I'm looking at, being able to develop so we can perhaps have telephones on in the studio and doing a live talk show where people call in and interact and those types of things. Why don't we have those types of things?
Well, you named everything I've already been down that road.
Okay.
When you say
do these things work, or
when you say why don't we develop a morning show? When you say we, do you mean we as in the producers or we as in the staff?
or the station itself, however that mix comes in, okay? Because I look at the station as just one unit, okay? The people here that are producing whatever it is that they're producing. And I'm wondering why we as a station, I believe that if we're talking about serving the needs of people, and I think that these are the kinds of shows, I think that there is such a void in television, and especially such a void when it comes to the African American community or low to moderate income communities. I believe that the viewing, that the things that they need to see perhaps need to be able to enhance the quality of their life, learn something that they didn't know, get to see what's going on around Rochester. Things like that. So once again, as I said, doing a show, I hate to use the comparison, but when you go to WXXI, when you walk in there, there's they have a program, and it tells you about all the listings of the programs that they have on that particular day or for a week, whatever it may be. Why don't we have that same kind of setup?
We don't have the kind of money they have.
And that's another question, but why?
They're always nothing. I don't want to knock XXI, but they're always having fund drive, pledge drives, and things like that. We get operating funds from Time Warner. They give us operating money and say, "There you go. We'll see you next year." And we're just kind of out here on the island.
What stops us from being able to go get funding?
There's nothing stopping us from going to get funding. The morning shows and things like that takes manpower,
course,
people
yes.
power, and our staff is what 5, 3. You know, that's about the only thing that's stopping us from doing it. We can do that type of stuff. It just takes a lot of manpower and just overall producer, and I think it's a good idea. I mean, I really do. It's first, I see no reason that you just mentioned it. Why not do it? I think it would be a good. Um, I think it would be good as like a learning tool
Yeah.
where you have a lot of people that are a lot of minorities that are in journalism, in school, and of course they're not going to go to our news and be on the air right away. But if we did like sort of like a morning news program, that would be a good way for them to get experience.
Exactly.
A good way for camera people to go out and learn to shoot different things and what to shoot for. So I think it's a good idea, and I would love to work with you on that.
Just backtracking a little
Go
bit.
ahead.
Is the market easier to penetrate now, or is this career easier to penetrate now than it was when you first started out those many years ago?
Wow. I think it's actually. I don't. You know what? I can't even answer that because I haven't
Okay.
had. I
Well,
haven't had to
okay.
go out and look for a job. So
Okay.
I would want to say it's probably harder
Okay.
because the way the technology has changed, where now a lot of the editing is nonlinear, or you have kids who've never gone to school that know how to use the editing software, the editing tools. So if it's just a matter of coming in and just like a lot of what I did at Fox is kind of like no-brainer stuff. You just put a graphic here, a voice over there, and put it on the air. They can get kids coming out of high school that can do that now.
Okay.
So in a sense, I would say it's a little more competitive, but the people that have come out of school, you still have to know the foundations. You still have to know the protocol, the language. When you start talking about 180-degree line, you still have to understand like the structure. When people ask me, how do you structure a program? It's one of those things you learn in school as you've done it over and over and over. You figure out how to structure a program to get a good show.
Okay.
So I guess it depends on where you go and what you're doing. You probably can get an entry-level job easily, but when it comes to getting to the next level and actually sustaining a career, it's probably harder.
In the 16 years that you've been here at the station, how has the programming changed or has it developed? And what I mean by that, was there a time that you had certain programming that now changes, I guess, with every
6 months.
not just 6 months, but I would assume with every general manager that comes in, station manager, perhaps would change the programming or the styles of the way the station is run. And so now, where about are we with our programming here? Can we, or do we have the? I noticed one thing. We have an opportunity for people to come in and take a class, learn how to utilize the equipment, and then at the completion of the class, then they're able to produce programming. Is this the how do you see this? Is this a viable means of getting people to come in from the community? Because I know this is one of the concepts of having the community come in to produce the shows that they're interested in. Is this? Would you speak on that? Is this something that you see as viable?
Yes, yes and no. Um, it's,
As well, do we have enough people participating?
we don't have enough
Because
people
when we
participating.
talk about community and people having the opportunity to come in and produce content, do we have enough people doing that?
We don't, you know what, and that's the one thing that has declined. You don't have enough people participating. At one point, there used to be a lot of producers that would come in, they would go in their neighborhoods, shoot different things, bring it here, and we air it. You don't have a lot of that nowadays. You don't have people coming. It used to be people on Goodman Street, Central Park, taping stuff. Like this was going on in my neighborhood, and they would bring it in and they would air it. You don't have a lot of those producers out now. You don't have producers that would be on the West Side taping what's going on, whether it's good or bad. You know, sometimes there were people that would tape some bad stuff, but that's what was happening in the community. And by us being public access, we had to broadcast it. We're not getting a lot of that anymore. And the reason why I think that is because, like I said, since the time that I've been here, I've probably seen few thousand producers. They come in, they take the class, and then they say, damn, this is harder than I thought.
Oh, okay.
You know, this is harder than I thought. You got to be dedicated. You got to spend some time in here. You got to spend some hours editing. You got to come in and like really like shoot and like really think about this. And then they don't come back, right? I mean, like you, for an example. I see you every day working on your show. A lot of people are not dedicated. And when I was a public access producer, which I mean, I'm still a producer, but when I would come to public access, I was there all the time. And that's what people don't understand. It takes a little bit of dedication. And most people, they don't want to be dedicated to anything unless it's going to give them some money, unless they see a return. You know, I want to pay my rent. I'm not going to stay in here all day working on this and I'm not getting nothing for it. And that's why you don't see a lot of those type of programming now.
And this brings me back into part of the questions that I was asking earlier. Does it make sense for when I say us or the station, does it make more sense for us to start producing shows and producing a commentary that we think that is beneficial?
Well, I mean, we could do a few commentaries.
Let's just say, in a perfect world,
Right.
that we had money, okay, and we had the means to produce shows. What would this station look like through your eyes?
What would it look like through my eyes, huh? I think definitely we'll have a live call-in show. I think that would really tie the community in. And we have the means to do that. If anybody's seen our telethon that we've had here to raise money at the station,
Okay.
we have 7 phone lines in the
Okay.
studio. So that's not like it can't be done. We have the means to do a live call-in show. I think that more equipment to producers, doesn't have to be high-end equipment, just more things, give you guys more stuff to go out and really capture some of that stuff that's out in the community.
Right.
That's what I would like to see in a more perfect world. Better quality production, not just a show, but a good produced show.
Exactly.
You know, we go to. I went last year to Tucson, Arizona, to Alliance for Community Media. There's a conference every year where every public access station across the United States, they meet, we share ideas, we network, and we find out what's going on in different communities. Everyone from those stations, and even if you guys submit different stuff, and they have an award ceremony, hometown video awards. There's a station called Germantown in New York. Every year they walk away with 15 trophies, you know, because they're producing. It's not even so much as this, the content is great, but it's just the quality and the production of their program is good. And, you know, we've won a few here and there, but I would like to walk out of there one day and say, look, this is what all the producers here at RCTV, this is everything we've done here.
Exactly.
You know, so that's what I would like to see in the perfect world.
What about streaming video? Because once again, this is tying back in when I was asking the connection between television and the internet.
Right.
I would think that this would be a mainstay, especially in today's environment. Not saying that television is going anywhere, but to be able to have our viewing audience be able to tie in to the computers.
We stream the station.
Is it 24/7?
It's not 20. Well, the station runs 24/7, but we've had it streaming at a time. We run into some kinks here and there. So there's times that for like a month everything is streaming, and there's time where we reach a blip in the road. We probably have to have new lines put in, because I'm pretty sure there's days you come in, we don't have internet.
Yeah.
You can't stream it if you don't have internet.
Exactly.
You know, so it's one of those things that we're working on.
Okay, but there is But the reason why I say that too, because I believe the younger market, the younger people that we would like to be able to tap into, I think that that's their basic medium. They walk around with computers, these smartphones, and this is how they're staying in touch. And if we could be able to allow us to get a message to them through that medium, because I'm looking at television. Television, in my mind, is older people like myself,
Right.
and back, and up. Whereas today's market is, I think that more people are getting their entertainment and their viewing from the internet. If we could and put together the synergy where we could take care of both worlds, I think then we are really serving the needs of this community.
Well, I think you're dead on with that. It used to be a time where a lot of people, we didn't realize it. We reached the city limits, just the inner city limits. There's a lot of people that don't have computers.
Exactly.
We still have to keep that in mind, just based
Exactly.
on, the demographics of what we have. There's a lot of people that don't have computers. But now it's smartphones. They might not have a computer at home, but they're walking around with an iPhone.
Exactly.
So that's definitely where we had it, like streaming more, which we're working the kinks out to get it on 24/7.
What about synergy? What about, I'm a firm believer of networking and collaboration. Who are the media entities here that you have a partnership with? I would think that WDKX would be a mainstay, that you would have a relationship with them, because these are two, if you will, I know that public access isn't black-owned TV, but for the most part, I think that the viewing audience is quite heavily black.
Right.
Whereas I believe that if we had a partnership with, let's say, WDKX, I think that would be a good a partnership. As well as other entities around Rochester, Monroe County. But what do you think about those?
The thing is, though, when you said other things like you mean other TV stations, like DKX is radio.
Yes.
And we've had a relationship with DKX. We've done things with them. We haven't done it as of late, but there was a time when Duffy was mayor, he did the water cooler. We would go in and we would actually videotape it every morning. We would do the water cooler on a Monday and Friday, and we would broadcast it back on our station. We haven't done those things lately, but we have had a relationship in the past with DKX. When it comes to other stations, other networks, it's just not a public access thing. You won't find Channel 13 working with Channel 10 too much, because everybody has their own, I mean, we know each other, we acknowledge each other, but as far as working together, it's like they have their niche and they have their thing they're working on. Like if you look at the stations, every station has kind of its own identity. Fortunately, our identity, which we're trying to get rid of, people look at Channel 15 and say, oh, that's the religious station. There's nothing wrong with religion, but we want people to know that that's more than what we broadcast.
And once again, but I think that would come into the development of programming. And I believe that if we took and developed a stronger business model and turned this station, I guess maybe into a network, that's how I think. I think in terms of being able, for instance, 6 o'clock in the morning, from 6 to 7, Good Morning Rochester, from 7 to 8, this program, and all the way through.
But see, what you got to understand, we're public access. So technically, we have to allow people, like first come, first served basis. So it's not like we say, okay, we're going to do it 6 o'clock news, 7 o'clock news, 8 o'clock news, 9 o'clock news. When you come in and say, well, I got this show, I want to put it on at 8 in the morning, we can't say, well, we got 6, 7, 8, 9, and you can't put a show on. That's the problem that we run into. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of times where we would like to have more control over. Prime time schedule. And we've been talking about it, and it's probably going to happen from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m., which is prime time. We're maybe I'm letting the cat out the bag, but I have to put it out there. We're already talking about making that time slot where better quality shows get better preference to those slots. Why should you have a time slot at 9 o'clock if you're not producing good quality program? That's good quality time. So we're trying to, we're devising a plan where the better quality shows will have access to those preferred spots.
Okay. Could you also help define what is public TV? So the viewing audience understands, because just as you're saying, for the most part, we think of public TV, this is
Right.
just a lot of
Right.
religious programming.
Well, technically by law, in order for a cable carrier to come into a town, they have to have public access. It was written into law. So if Comcast, let's say if Comcast came into Rochester, Comcast would have to offer public access TV, where the people in the community have a place to voice their opinions and their viewpoints. So by law, public access was written in a long time ago, like in the mid, like 1980s. Time Warner happened to be the cable carrier for Rochester. So by law, they have to have public access. And what we do here at RCTV is we train different producers on how to produce a show. And my job as programming manager is coming from a network aspect. I try to structure it as a TV show, as a regular TV station. There are things that I put in place that make it kind of run smoother than the station. When the show ends, we run public service announcements, and then it comes to the next show. So there's no more like show cuts off, and then another show, clicks back in. Try to make it a smooth transition. So when people actually watch one show, and then they see like station IDs and things like that, it's just a transition. So you get the same feel as you would if you were watching 8, 10, and 13.
Okay.
But public access, that's what we are. By law, they have to have it in the community.
Well, what happens if, let's say, for instance, if the public isn't coming up to par of the standards and producing shows?
Well, that's what's happening right now in a lot of different states. Like I said, when I went to the conference last year in Arizona, probably about 50, 60 public access stations in California are black. There's nothing there. You could turn on those stations, there's nothing there. What you have now is cable, is telephone operators. Verizon is now coming into play where they're carrying cable. So you have Verizon saying, okay, by law, the cable carrier has to have public access. Verizon is saying, we're not a cable carrier. We're a telephone company, so we don't have to carry public access. So basically, they've taken over the cable carrier in those towns in California, but they feel we don't have to give public access any money to operate. And they cut those stations off. And that's one thing that I went to Albany, and that's one of the bills that they're pushing out. Like Verizon and AT&T, they're trying to have it where they can come into New York State and do the same thing. Of course, the New York politicians, they aren't having it. New York, Rhode Island, they're not letting these companies come in. But, that's something that we've been on top of, and we're watching it, and we're aware of it. And if people don't use it, you lose it. And that's one thing that happened kind of out in Greece. There's the Greece station, it kind of went black. There was a dispute between the guy that ran the station in Greece and the town of Greece. The school district took it over, and really they don't have a facility that's really running public access. It's running throughout the school. There's no point person for it. But that's something that we're on top of. We definitely, we right now we're trying to lay the foundation for, let's say if Verizon does come into Rochester, how would RCTV sustain itself? How would we stay afloat? And that's the things that we're working on now.
Can you help explain to the community the value of public TV and what this means to a community, and also what it means to a community when you don't have the vehicle to express what you feel?
I mean, I think this is, public access is like, it's incredible. Anybody, if you have an idea, you have an opinion, you have a viewpoint, you can come here and get that idea out. Not necessarily, you don't even have to produce a show in our station. You could produce it somewhere else. If you call me up and you bring in a DVD and say, I want to put this on the air, by law, we have to air it. I cannot deny anyone the right to run a show. I could move it to, depending on the content, to a different hour, but by law I have to air it.
Okay.
So I think that this is really important that people understand that. So if somebody's sitting at home and saying, well, I disagree with this, I disagree with that, well, all the complaints about the police, politicians, school district, any of that stuff, they can produce a program and put it on our station.
I think there's a lot of people out there that are listening to what you're saying, but I don't believe that they know that they have the ability to do that. I don't think that they know that that's what public TV is about. Public TV is about the public.
Right, definitely. 99% of the shows that people see on the station, they have to realize it's not something I produce. I produce maybe one or two programs that I might work with different groups, but other than that, these are shows that are produced by people from the community that have a desire to put stuff out there just to inform the public.
Well, let's take another,
Okay.
put another hat on. Now let's talk about some of the movies that you've made, some of the films that you've done. Well, first of all, congratulations on another telly.
Another telly.
Okay, so would you explain to the audience what a telly is?
All right. The Telly Award, I should have brought one. I actually got one upstairs. The Telly Award is basically an award that's given to the same company that makes the Emmy Award, Oscar Awards. They produce the Telly Award. The Telly recognizes different, what would you say, TV stations, ad agencies, non-broadcast works, movies, films, and it's basically a community within the industry, and they just recognize excellent work. And to obtain one of the telly, it's just saying that it's not so much as you compete against other people or individuals, it's just basically putting a stamp of approval that's just saying this is good quality work.
Okay.
Good quality work.
Would you tell us about what the first film that won the telly?
Do I want to telly?
Mhm.
The first telly I won is actually not even a film. It's actually an infomercial.
Okay.
It's probably 10 minutes long. It's for Quad A for Kids. You familiar with Quad A for Kids?
No, I'm not.
See, I gotta let you see the DVD.
Okay.
Quad A for Kids is a program where actually Adam McFadden is the director for Quad A for Kids.
Okay.
It's an after-school program where when kids get out of school, they can come to Quad A for Kids. They give them a meal, and then from like 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, they have different tracks, whereas the kids can learn how to make their own comic books. They do artwork, they do drama, they do drumming, they do dance. It's just different things where kids are actually still in the school, but they can actually have fun, whereas they see their teachers in a different light. The same teacher that was giving them homework and yelling at them all day, I shouldn't say yelling at them, but the same teacher that was, they looked at as just being rigid from 3 to 6, they see this teacher now, and this teacher's playing Xbox with them on Dance Dance Revolution, So that's Quad A for Kids. And it took me probably a year going to the different schools, 4 school, 16 school, taping a lot of different programs. And then I just kind of interviewed the teachers and the kids and the parents, principals, and compiled it down to a nice 10-minute video. Just finished called Pink Triangle. It's about a 18-year-old female. She's going to go to the military, but then she realizes that she's gay. She doesn't know how to tell her family or friend or boyfriends. And that one won a silver award. The telly, there's no gold. There's a silver and there's a bronze. Okay, so the silver this year is the highest one. And that one it's not, when I worked at Fox and I walked in and I saw the Telly Awards, when I first started working there, I was like, what's this about? And they told me what it was, Telly Awards. I said, wow, I'd like to win one of those. So now I got 2. So it's a sense of accomplishment.
And once again, and what community that looks at the body of work to determine who gets these awards?
The community is different, just different individuals, like past winners that have won. A lot of the people that have won are coming from like Turner Networks, HBO. I mean, it's really a competition. And it's not just like local. This is coming from people all across the world that compete for a Telly Award, and it's a prestigious award. It's
Now, looking back over your illustrious career, what do you think about from when you first started out to where you are now? I know that it would perhaps been very difficult for you to foresee where you are now, but now looking backwards, somehow it's always easier to look backwards than looking forward. But
right.
now looking backwards and the ground that you've traveled, what do you say?
Wow. It's funny because I'm one of those people. I'm never satisfied.
Okay.
I have I have like a chip on my shoulder. Just like always there. It's like an inner. It's just me. It's just my driving thing. It's like, okay, now you won one telly. I won the second. When I won the first one, I said, well, maybe I just got lucky. Then the second one's like, oh damn, okay, maybe you're doing something right. Maybe you're good. So now I'm like, okay, I got two tellies. What's next? So now like I want an Emmy.
Okay.
You know, and even when I get to certain points in my career, I'm always saying, well, what can I do to get better? Where can I end up at? And I always tell people, I said, there's a certain point when you get to a point in your life, you say, wow, finally, I'm where I want to be. I don't feel I've gotten there yet.
Okay.
You know, but I feel that whether I'm 95, 105, I say, yeah, 105, I'm going to get there. You know, and that's just my feeling that I'm going to get there. But as far as when I look back to where I'm at now, I'm really, I can say I feel good from where I came from.
Okay.
Just the little kid that was running around, you know, on Gladstone Street to now, I can say I've honestly grown into like a man. I know people are like, oh, you're old enough, yeah, you should be a man. No, it's I'm to the point now where I can learn to say, I can learn, you know, I can look people in their face and say, no, I don't want to do that.
Okay.
You know, and to some people that takes a lot, you know, but I've learned to just say, no, I don't want to do that. I do what I feel is right. I've you know, married, good family, you know, kids, and my priorities are in the right place.
Okay.
So I feel like I've come a long way, and I just feel like I'm at a good place.
Now, looking back over your illustrious career, what do you think about from when you first started out to where you are now? I know that it would perhaps been very difficult for you to foresee where you are now, but now looking backwards, somehow it's always easier to look backwards than looking forward. But
Right.
now looking backwards and the ground that you've traveled, what do you say?
Wow. It's funny because I'm one of those people. I'm never satisfied.
Okay.
I have I have like a chip on my shoulder. Just like always there. It's like an inner. It's just me. It's just my driving thing. It's like, okay, now you won one telly. I won the second. When I won the first one, I said, well, maybe I just got lucky. Then the second one's like, oh damn, okay, maybe you're doing something right. Maybe you're good. So now I'm like, okay, I got two tellies. What's next? So now like I want an Emmy.
Okay.
You know, and even when I get to certain points in my career, I'm always saying, well, what can I do to get better? Where can I end up at? And I always tell people, I said, there's a certain point when you get to a point in your life, you say, wow, finally, I'm where I want to be. I don't feel I've gotten there yet.
Okay.
You know, but I feel that whether I'm 95, 105, I say, yeah, 105, I'm going to get there. You know, and that's just my feeling that I'm going to get there. But as far as when I look back to where I'm at now, I'm really, I can say I feel good from where I came from.
Okay.
Just the little kid that was running around, you know, on Gladstone Street to now, I can say I've honestly grown into like a man. I know people are like, oh, you're old enough, yeah, you should be a man. No, it's I'm to the point now where I can learn to say, I can learn, you know, I can look people in their face and say, no, I don't want to do that.
Okay.
You know, and to some people that takes a lot, you know, but I've learned to just say, no, I don't want to do that. I do what I feel is right. Um, I've married, good family, kids, and my priorities are in the right place.
Okay.
So I feel like I've come a long way, and I just feel like I'm at a good place. I started realizing early on that even though this is public access and people see you a different way, you become more of like a role model. You know, I hosted a music video show that I produced for years. When a little kid came up to me one day and asked for my autograph, I was on West Avenue. The kid was like, "Can I get your autograph? I see you on TV." And I was like, "Wow, you really." People don't realize though, you really have an impact on kids, and you mold them. So that always stayed with me. And even now, like the kids that were in the films I work with, Pink Triangle, we won a Telly Award. They come back. They're in college now. They come back. They talk to me, and that you have an impact on these kids, and you can.
Well, I know what you're talking about as far as recognition. I was in Walmart yesterday,
Yeah.
and I was walking past the vision center that they have, and this guy called me. I watch your show,
Yeah.
but it's because I wasn't really paying attention because you're not really looking for that. So when he says I watch your show, I really didn't hear what he said, but he got up and says, "Listen, I watch your show." And then I realized that he was talking to me.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, yes.
Did you talk to him afterwards, right?
Yes.
I always felt that was important, that even when people stop you and say, "I see your show," engage them in conversation. Just talk to them. Like, what do you think about it? What you didn't like? What do you
Yes.
think I should do differently? And that's always important, and people really do appreciate that.
Without question. Well, I'm getting directions that we're coming close to the hour.
Oh, so
I mean,
fast, huh?
can you believe that? That's
Yeah.
one of the things that I say to people, that it goes by so quickly. Before we go down, I want to squeeze this in. I need you to really say something to young people about being tenacious, hanging in there. You may not be able to see the prize right now the way that you did.
Well, I think any young person that's watching this show, you have to have that attitude, that you will not be denied no matter what. It might some things. I always what's the deal? It's certain quotes that I remember. It's one that I had and one about determination. What we hope to do with ease, we must first do with diligence, and I live by that. And that's really strong to me. Is that if you think it's going to be easy, it's not. But you gotta keep plugging away, and that's just a quote I live by.
And with that, I thank you so much for being
you.
on the show. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
My name is James Young. I look forward to seeing you next week. Be blessed, and remember, it's a new day.